Hello and welcome to CSM Mistakes Were Made. This is a video about a sock I cranked on my new Lamb LT150, and I'm kind of getting used to it. It's a bit of a more difficult machine to operate. I'm having the best time learning some of the things it can do, and I've only just scratched the surface. You'll see how I knit this sock, mistakes and all. And one thing I want to make sure people know is that this is not an instructional video. There are some wonderful ones that Amy Lonczak of the Lamb Knitting Machine Company in Chicopee, Massachusetts, has published on YouTube, and those are wonderful videos. There are a few others in my playlist that I'll make public that have helped me a lot. So this is my journey, such as it is, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for watching CSM Mistakes Were Made. I'm kind of crawling up the learning curve on my new Lamb LT150. I've had it now for 4 or 5 weeks, and I've made a few pairs of socks on it. Today I made this one. Just started casting on. This is my cast on bonnet on the Lamb LT150. Can rotate. It can make stitches in, again, cylinder mode, which I'll show you soon, and then what's known as camshell mode, which I will also show soon. For casting on, we're in cylinder mode. I made sure that before I started, and you'll be seeing me go back and forth because it's in cylinder mode that is very easy to manipulate stitches and add ribber in. In fact, you have to be in cylinder mode to add ribber stitches. So I'm going to start off in cylinder mode. I'm going to take my green waste yarn, load it into the winged yarn guide, like so. And I'm still certainly very clumsy, I guess. Maybe that's a little overstatement, but I'm very not smooth. Let's just call it clumsy. I'm loading it in. I'm pulling down so I can get a few of these done, but you can see easily how the cylinder is rotating. So now I'm going to keep loading these loops onto the 33 remaining needles. I've taken every other needle out so that I can do a 1x1 cast on and about 15 rows of 1x1 cuff. The cylinder mode is a wonderful mode because what happens is you can, if you play your cards right, you can place the work so it's right in front of you, which is quite nice compared to having to work on needles across the way where you can't see. And so this feature of the Lamb LT150 is a wonderful feature. Other machines can do this, namely the Dean & Bean machine. It's a 3D printed machine, and the Dean & Bean does do cylinder mode. Unfortunately, that's the only mode, but people get very good at knowing what to do with the Dean & Bean, and I suspect a person having had a Dean & Bean might just hit the ground running on this machine. Right now I'm taking a hook and I'm adding it to the hook that's on my cast on bonnet to have some pull down weight. Here's my counter. I will reset it when I get to my project yarn. So I'm cranking forward to get a few rows. It's very smooth, very nice. And I'm going to pay attention to the green needle, which is painted on either side, that needle, and then the blue needle. These are referenced frequently in Amy Lonczak's videos, the green and the blue. So what I'm going to try to do is keep my eye on this. I'm going to bring this green needle around to the start, or make it so that the yarn, the waste yarn, ends at this needle. So this yarn can be pulled around to what is really the far side of the needle that's painted in green. I'm going to add a row of ravel cord. I like ravel cord. I think it really helps me when I'm separating the work from the waste yarn. And so, again, somewhat clumsy. I've not really discovered a great way. I can't put the ravel cord in through the topper because there's just not enough of it. It's a small scrap. So I've been just kind of draping it over part of the machine. So now I've come up on where I'm almost back at the green needle. I'll pull my ravel cord in. This is a very long piece, so I will put the remainder down there. Now I'm ready for my project yarn. Project yarn is loaded into the yarn topper, and it's pulling from a cone directly underneath. So I have learned that this is a very sensitive machine, or at least my particular lamb LT150 is very sensitive, and the yarn needs to feed very close to where it hooks onto the topper. So I will put this in through the little pigtail, and then a little tail here, and I'm going to reset my counter, which is done by just pressing this button. What I will do for this is 1 3/4 rows, and I'm going to get a locked 1x1 selvage. So let's make sure everything looks good. It looks good. So let's go. So here's one row, one complete row, and here's 3/4 of a row. I've put my needle that's marked with the green fins on either side right in front, and this is a good landmark to aim for because this is the spring rest that you need to pull aside. And I've been using this kind of broken tool because I don't want to mess up the nice point of this new tool by gouging out spring rest. So that's why that's here. All right, so the next job to do 1x1 is to add the ribber in this cone holder, and I align the green that is placed at the factory, a green mark with the green fins. That's important. So what we'll do next is add these ribber needles. The ribber needles and the cylinder needles are the exact same needles. I will pull out an adjacent needle, flip the needle over, and put it in that way. There's a small window which works for maybe 3 or 4 ribber needles before you have to advance. As with many CSMs, you have the better crankers are ones that can keep their attention on multiple things at once. And I'm learning that skill here. So I'm going to add these, but I'm getting very close to needing to use the tall yarn guide. I've loaded everything, the waste yarn and the ravel cord and beginning of the project yarn onto the winged yarn guide, but it's the tall yarn guide that I now need. Once these needles get over to where the feed is, they won't knit unless it's the tall yarn guide. So there's no perfect time to do this. I'm going to do it now. And anyway, I load it around that. I keep the yarn guide, this yarn guide out of the way. So as you might be able to see, I would have lost that little stitch there. And we're going to just see how this proceeds. There are a lot of pitfalls when you add ribber needles in. Either you forget to swap the yarn guide, or you go too far and miss this little window, or the latches are you've forgotten the first rule of any CSM cranking, which is check for open latches. So there are many pitfalls, many ways where your work can go bad and you have to start over. One of the things I've noticed on this machine, and I think I'll be getting used to it eventually, but is that this counter goes off. It'll go to sleep, and it's a battery saving mechanism. To change out the battery, I guess, is a bit of a hassle, but the thing goes to sleep, and it will wake up when you crank. Now, it hasn't awakened with these mini cranks when I'm trying to advance the cylinder and advance so I can get to the different slots. I wish it did. It's not a deal breaker. There are many workarounds with this, and there are a lot of folks who have developed different ways to deal with this. So again, I'm kind of checking to make sure that this yarn is getting into the needles, and making sure I don't go too far so that I can't get ribber needles in. A little over halfway done. Again, this is a 33 slot ribber dial paired with a 66 slot cylinder. You can do, I think, 1 by 1, 1 by 2. I don't think you can do 1 by 3, but you can do 1 by 5. So it is, this cylinder combination has some limitations, as they all do when it comes right down to it. It did just wake up, so this is accurate. I think I'm on my 3rd row, and I think we've got about 6 more ribber needles to put in. Let's take this off, make sure things are set. I've got it all good, and all of the latches that should be in the open position are. Look at this, I almost went ahead and didn't put that one in. I've done that before, but I didn't, I lucked out, I didn't proceed. So I think all of the slots are filled. I think we're ready to go. All right. So I need to stop at 15. So there's 14. I'll go around one more time, and we're going to stop with the same green needle in front at this spring rest. I want to go to stockinette. Let me show 2 ways to do this. As I think most people who have seen these, the easiest thing to do is probably just do that. Just swap it like that. But, and what it does is it introduces a twist in the stitch. So it bothers me. So what I'm doing on mine is I take a spare needle and I just do a handshake. Now, I'm guessing that the little tiny twist, and I actually know, it's not a guess, but I happen to know that that little tiny twist that bothers me does not show unless somebody is really intent on finding that little twist. So this takes a little bit longer to do, but doesn't have the twist. And if you are a little maybe on the OCD side, like I apparently am, let me start my counter and do 70 rows. Okay, if you're a little like me, you can do it either way. And I wouldn't suggest a mixture of ways. Maybe it probably would be okay if you started one way and ended with another, but I'm going to try to be consistent. I'm going to do this handshake method. And I'm getting a little faster at it. I don't think it'll ever beat for speed the pull it out and twist. I am clumsy with this because I don't do that method, but I think you can see that if you are good at it, you can get that thing to go really fast. So I'm better at this. method, and I think it goes faster for me. I know some lamb LT150 owners who are super fast at flipping it, twisting it, and that's really cool. Okay, so we're gonna go forward. Ooh, and I went a little too far, didn't I? I think I probably lucked out by being able to back it off like 2 millimeters. Now, before I crank forward, I'm going to make sure that that little backing up that I just did, because I went a little too far, isn't going to impact the stitches at the yarn guide area. So let's look at that as soon as I finish this handshake stuff and kind of do this. Okay, so I backed up a little bit. Nothing looks like it's going to not knit. So let's go forward, and I'm going to keep my eye on that one and not go too far. Now there is a really important, I guess I would use that word, hack that I saw Amy Lonczak do in a video where she discusses how to deal with it if you do go way past that window. I've used it before. I'd rather not take the time today to show it because it does involve getting a particular Allen wrench out and then undoing something in this ribber cone temporarily and putting it back precisely. So for good reason, I don't want to have to show it. While we're doing this, and it may or may not be of interest to people to know that the ribber cone that I'm dealing with right now, I'm taking all the ribber needles out and making them into cylinder stitches. This ribber cone is specially made to work only in cylinder mode for the machine. It's the cylinder that has some tangs inside that help position the ribber so that it works. So I guess it's been a struggle for me to sort of keep these special powers of this machine straight. You know, what it can and can't do, what mode is required for certain things. And it is required to use the cylinder mode, which we are in right now, to move the ribber. We are doing 2 more of these, and we'll be able to take the ribber cone off to expose the knitting. And let's hope we've got it. Should be the last one. And we take our kind of throwaway tool to move this back into position. Everything looks good. Moving this up and over, and now it is safely out of the way. Okay, my ribbing looks fine. I can keep using the tall yarn guide or switch to the winged yarn guide. There's no particular reason to switch, so I'm going to keep going. And this is, again, the cylinder mode, where the cylinder is spinning around. Sometimes the counter action is what I call it. When does this counter get activated? And I've noticed that the green needle is here when the counter goes up. I want to kind of take note of that while I'm closing in on 70. 67, 68. I'm right at the critical point of almost 70. This should trip. And what I'm going to do is change from rotating cylinder to rotating camshell. I'll be putting my yarn back into this feeder here because we're going to crank a heel. So here's what I need to do. I'm at this point where I need to switch modes. To switch the modes, while you're cranking, there's a screw underneath here. I'm taking my hand and I'm actually pushing up with my finger while cranking forward, and it should activate right there. So a little pin went up into the cylinder. There's one sort of over here, and then there's another here. So I will just feel underneath here and get that one. Now, this handle drops down, and it can go any direction without moving anything. So it is now in neutral, but I now need to pay attention so that I can get this thing cranking in camshell mode. And to do that, I need to crank in a backwards fashion, and I need to kind of push down on this plunger while cranking backwards. When you're going from counterclockwise cylinder mode, you want to make sure that you crank the opposite direction so that the stitches don't fall off. Okay, so that may be confusing, but suffice to say that you have to get used to knowing which direction to crank in. You can easily lose stitches if you crank in the same direction that you were cranking in. So I'm cranking in what's called the uncomfortable direction so that I can start a heel. I think I did a contrasting color for the heel on the other sock, and I'm going to do that. I need to put this down, do that. Okay, so I'm using my winged yarn guide, which is a must when you're doing camshell mode back and forth for a heel. You can see that this opening is on one side, so if you crank one way and it works, cranking the other way, it would lose its yarn. So this is a necessary thing. I'm going to advance this just a little bit, and I'm going to lift needles out of work. So here are, if I lifted all the needles here, it would be 33 needles, but what I'm going to do is keep one more needle in work, and that's just so I can avoid a hole. This has never happened. I don't know what has caused this, but these all twisted. This is new and different. I don't know. I don't think I've lost anything, but all of these needles have twisted, which is, like I said, a first. Wow. Okay, let me get these back in here. That is very weird. I'm going to lift these up. Okay. Well, you saw it here first. Now the other thing that brand new knitters on their brand new lambs probably don't need to experiment with, but I had to by necessity, is changing colors for the heel. So I'm going to do that now. It's not recommended. If you're just getting started on your lamb LT150, don't bother with contrasting colors. I had to because I didn't want to run out of yarn. We're going to be cranking a heel back and forth, so that's cool. I need to engage this heel spring, and I need to tighten the tension in this little knob here for everything to work properly. So I wanted to make sure I do that before I get too far. I need to cut my yarn, and that is always very scary, but let's just do it. I need to pull this contrasting yarn down and put this in. Make sure it catches. I've seen Amy Lonczak do this a lot. She's really, really good at this. So now I've got kind of the faux Russian join thing going here. I'm going to crank in the uncomfortable direction and get that to knit in. So that knitted in. Okay, so I'm ready to go. I'm going to I didn't lift this needle, so I'll just lift it now. Let's lift this one. Okay. So I didn't get a wrap on that one, but that's okay. As anybody who builds heels and toes on a circular sock machine knows, there comes a point when your machine tells you that you better do something so that stitches don't drop off. And I'm getting to that point now. I'm using my hand underneath to kind of pull this fabric forward. And you can get away with it for just so long. Next thing we're gonna do is put some local weight using a V-fork. And it's something I'm getting to like. I didn't think I would, but the V-fork goes in. You grab these and just put it on the tip of the V-fork, and that draws the fabric down. Okay. I still want to keep my eyes on the corner, these stitches here, because as you might imagine, the weight distribution changes with every pass. Okay, I'm going to take and lift 2 at a time to get a rounded heel. 2 at a time to get a rounded heel. Lower 2. And I saw that. Drop off. It's probably wasn't the smartest thing to do, a suicide type of increase on this. Anyway, so we'll fix it. It may not be the most beautiful fix, but I'm gonna take that, stick it on here. It's hard to fix edge stitches. I've done it successfully, but today I don't think I did a great job. It's going to be serviceable though. These will be wearable socks. Okay, so what I did on this one that I won't do again on this one is to put the yarn behind with a tool. See, that one worked nice. This is the method I normally use, but I think I have better luck doing this when it's not 2 at a time. 2 at a time is a little bit more dangerous. So I'm pulling down on the V-hook as a little bit of insurance so I don't drop stitches off. I'm still in camshell mode, and camshell mode is really when, of course, the yarn carrier circles around, and the yarn carrier is attached to the camshell, so that's why it's called camshell mode. All right, so I am about to finish my last one there. I need to go back to cylinder mode. And this plunger goes way too fast. I need to get it centered over here. Now it's in neutral. So this is preliminary to moving into cylinder mode again. I need to pull these down. These are the little pins that one's about here and one's about here, and you pull them down. I'm going to, let's see, I think it doesn't want to, yeah, there it goes. It doesn't want to take immediately. There's a little tiny cute little thing inside that needs to take hold before it'll move, and you sometimes have to reach down and do it yourself. All right, so I now need to go back to the regular yarn. All right, so as you can see, there's a couple things you have to pay attention to. You gotta know what your next move is. So I'm gonna put this in here like so, and under here like so, and move this to here. Okay. Well, I think I don't need that much. Okay, 1 second here. Okay, and then I'll put these down, and then when I come back, we'll finish the foot. All right, I'm back. So we've done the cast on, the 1 by 1, 15 rows. We did 70 rows for the leg. We just completed a contrasting color for the heel. We don't want to play yarn chicken. And now we're about ready to start this part and end with a toe. Using the winged yarn guide, I've put all of these down. I can reset my counter. And I lost a stitch over here and a stitch here. All right, well, let's just see what needs to be done to fix this. This one will be easy. This one, not so much. I don't know what happened here, but time to whip off the glasses like Clark Kent. Okay, I'm going to put this there, and that there, and I'm just going to try to make it so I don't have a huge hole there. So what I think I'll do is take what looks like to be a stitch that never got knitted, and kind of get that to go in like that. Let's see what we've got. Okay, so I'm not at all sure that this is going to look great, but I think it'll be wearable. This is the tail from the faux Russian join. We still got a little weight over here on the pocket of the heel, so I took the weight off here so I can finish this one to snag that one, which dropped a little bit while I was talking. That's not a big deal. I'll take my needle out. One that's too high, invariably I'll miss it and just make the run worse. So I just go ahead and aim low to begin with, and have to undo a little bit. Yes, I need to get this loop out. So I had to undo a couple things. That's okay. So what I'm going to try to do is get this loop over, and then find a spot to put the needle through again for the next one, which I think is right here. We've got a live loop underneath. It's kind of hidden, so it is hard to see. And we're going to try to get that one knitted in and get this needle to emerge in the right spot, which is sometimes a challenge, but so far so good. Let's put this loop over because we're going to need to do this one next. that little new stitch kind of hides out. So we have to, okay, so that's good. Okay, and then we'll get this last two that date. Okay, so that one's done. So that was a little slow down. Weight, so I have to put these back on. Sometimes I like to use this. I bought this from Lamb. It's a really nice heavy duty weight buckle. So there we go. So now we've got proper weight distribution here, some weight distribution here. I believe I've reset the counter. So let's see if it wakes up and says 2. That's what I'd really like it for it to say. So let's see, this is good. I don't need the heel spring, and we're cranking in the comfortable direction. We're really on the 4th row, and it says 3. When it wakes up, it sometimes doesn't, it doesn't take into account that first one. So I just learned a way to trip it. Yeah, so taking a magnet to trip it so it's more accurate is helpful. So that's what I've just done. I've gone from 3 to 4. So I should be good to go. Now, as I'm cranking with the rotating cylinder, the weights holding this main part of the sock is rotating with the device underneath. And I've got a little video I'll show you. If you get going really fast, what happens is you'll hear what to me sounds like hailstones. It's just ugly metal on metal. And you can counteract that with So there are some clever people in our hobby, and just buy one of these. I got it at Harbor Freight, and you basically attach it around the work. Anyway, that's kind of a cool hack. I have to do 69. Just like with any circular sock machine, when you're getting a lot of rows done, you have to be careful that you don't bottom out your weights. So I'm kind of watching for that too. Okay. And then we'll do a toe. And you'll see once again how I have to get out of cylinder mode, go to camshell mode, and then we'll be done. This will turn to 68. Okay, so here is the green. I'm gonna let it turn over to 68. And then on its 69th pass, I'm going to, once again, while cranking, you press up on some pins underneath. You feel underneath, and it's a broad pin, maybe, well, a little less than a 1/4 inch in diameter. It's easy to feel. So what we're gonna do is now start the toe, which means taking it out of cylinder mode, and that's the clunk. It usually happens. It happens when the blue painted needles are over here at about 9 o'clock and green is at 3 o'clock. And as we said before, you press in on one, you have to remember to do the other one over here on this side, and I've just done it. That one went in as well. And now, while cranking in the uncomfortable direction, okay, so now I think I have to do this in the uncomfortable. There we go. Just as before, when I was cranking in the comfortable direction for the cylinder mode, I now, for the yarn to go into the needles in the same way, in the same direction, I have to crank in the uncomfortable direction, which means backwards. It's backwards. All right, so what I need to do is take my winged yarn carrier, I'll leave it in there, and I'll crank around to about 6 o'clock, 3, 9, 6, and 12, of course. And what we need to do next is raise needles out of work for a toe.